Welcome to Expert Amateur. Normally I do do-it-yourself videos that I do around the house or projects or even videos about training my dog. All topics that I am actually not an expert in, and I'm trying to get better and I'm trying to improve as an amateur. But today I want to talk about something that I'm actually more of an expert in. I spent 20 years working in the private security sector for ultra high net worth clients, both the corporate sector as well as the entertainment sector. A lot of family and friends usually ask me, how accurate is the movie The Bodyguard? And as a disclaimer, I actually really like the movie. It's a good movie, it's very entertaining, and it doesn't faze me one way or another that it's not very accurate to the security field or what a security professional would do if they were faced in a situation that Kevin Costner is faced with in that movie, right? If I was faced with that same scenario as Kevin Costner was, with that exact type of client, which Whitney Houston in the movie is one of the most famous people in the world, like not only a singer, but an actress, and later on in the movie up for an Academy Award and so forth, right? If you start analyzing, the first thing that I would do personally is, okay, what kind of threat picture are we looking for here? So if you take the movie synopsis, the scenario of the movie, there's three major things that is occurring. And the very first thing is a bomb goes off in her dressing room, right? That's a pretty big deal, right? The second thing is she gets death threat letters, right? So somebody basically saying that they're going to end her life and they're sending letters to notify her of the fact that they're going to attempt to do that. And then thirdly, somebody made it into her personal home and into her bedroom and did things to her bed that I'm not going to mention here in this video. Whether these are connected or not, they have to be treated as separate threats with the possibility of a connection. So as a security professional, I don't make those linkages, right? That is for law enforcement and to do, whether it's local law enforcement or FBI and so forth, which FBI would be involved in a case similar to the one in The Bodyguard, right? The threat picture is very likely to happen again, and the condition would be severe, if not critical, right? With that in mind, I would personally suggest 2 teams of 6 as a minimum. They can be adjusted to sort of the off-time teams when, for instance, the client's asleep and not mobile and not moving. Then you can move down some of the mobile officers a little bit. But 2 teams of 6, and each team would have a team lead. I would have 2 mobile officers with the principal at all times that will be walking formation. There's many different formations. Again, I can talk about this in another video, but 2 mobile officers with the principals at all times, with the team lead as the potential third, right? Then I would have a security driver who never leaves the vehicle, right? Never leaves it unattended and is ready to go at a moment's notice. He stays with the vehicle. He or she stays with the vehicle. Then I would have 2 residential officers, one roaming the property at all times, always mobile, right? And then one last guy situated in command post at the resident, monitoring cameras, and who can also be in charge of receiving and relaying communication to the rest of the team, right? These teams would be 24/7, right? So if you're looking at 24/7, 7 days a week, you need multiple teams. Like, you can't just have one team to cover 24/7, 7 days a week. When the principal is home, you can pull it down to basically more of a site security where you're eliminating the mobile security. But as schedule changes, especially with celebrity clientele, which I predominantly work with, schedules change, right? New things come up. So you always have to have that into account, and that the principal cannot move without the proper coverage, which I would say at least 3 people, 4 people, including the driver. There's never any guarantees either, right? When it comes to these kind of mobile, like, you're very vulnerable when you're out in the open. But according to this movie, right? So if I personally, Henrik, was offered this job, if the client wouldn't take anything less than what I suggest, I would probably walk. Because you got to take a look at it as a security professional. You got to take a look at, okay, good, what can I do, right? So if you're just one person with one individual that has a viable threat on him, you're putting yourself in a very, very precarious situation, right? And there are a few people that I've encountered that probably will disagree with me, and they'll take it and they'll do the best they can do, and they might be better at the job than I am. But for me personally, I wouldn't take it. unless I would have those resources. And that's expensive. 2 teams of 6, if you want highly qualified individuals, they come at a cost, right? Professionals cost more money. But my own personal integrity when it comes to a situation as to the movie The Bodyguard, that's what I would highly recommend. And even 2 teams of 6, that's what I would go with. That's the bare minimum. But the important part as well is that when you have that team, much like in a police unit or in a military unit, each role that's assigned, that person would stick at that role. Like the team lead, unless something happens or they make a terrible mistake or anything like that being replaced, they stick with that. The driver sticks being a driver. The 2 mobile agents, they stick with that. The 2 residential agents, they stick with being the residential agents. I did a 6-month detail, a travel detail, almost 6 months. And during that entire time, I was the main residential agent. I did not leave that property. It was a few times on an emergency basis where I left with the principal and I assisted the mobile team, the movement team. But other than that, I was at the property. I controlled anything that came in and came out of that property, right? So that was my post for those almost 6 months. And that's the effective parts, because if you look at in a military unit playing musical chairs, you don't do that, right? So it's kind of like goes down to the MOS, which actually stands for military operational specialty, right? What is it your specialty is? Like what is it that your duty is? And then you hone in on that and you're perfecting that. And as the detail moves on, guys get better and better and better at that post and more familiar with it. So as it moves along, it will get smoother and smoother, hopefully. Back to the Bodyguard movie, I would be very reluctant for it, because if somebody has that much of a viable threat on them, you need to increase security a lot. You need to change the schedules. You need to change anything that they're doing on a normal day basis right away. Like you got to break that routine. You got to break that. And with the celebrity clientele, like in the movie Bodyguard, where they have movie shoots, concerts, award shows, you can't just up and move the award show. You can't just tell the people of the Academy Awards saying, hey, we're going to hold the Academy Awards on a different date or a different location. You can't do that. Right? So now you're being to the effect of the celebrity schedule. And that's not a good place for security professionals to be. In the private sector, we're a lot to the effect because they don't always have the money or want to spend the money on security. And by the time they realize they need to spend more time on security, something have usually happened. Right? So the preventative aspect of the private security industry, they don't react until something happened, which sort of negates the entire purpose of a security field, which is a proactive environment, and they're now acting reactively to something that's happened. A lot of guys coming from law enforcement, I'm former military myself, that's a reactive force, right? I had to retrain myself going into the private sector as a civilian because now I had to change my mindset from being reactive to proactive. I don't think that I would take that detail and protect that client unless the resources were spent to provide the teams that is necessary for me to think that in order to keep that client safe. I'll post more videos, little hints. I'll make them short and concise, because the security industry is a very, very wide thing. Again, as a security professional, adaptability is key as well. So stay tuned for more.